2023 is off to a good start in markets, but macro headwinds still seem utterly crazy. Billionaires are accusing each other of insane fraud in crypto, and it feels like the timeline just can't get any worse. But there are some really interesting things happening. Some things that if you've been around in crypto before, can't help but bring up memories of incredibly good buying opportunities of the past. Now, I'm not saying to get excited and buy, but I am going to point out for you a fairly shocking coincidence that has just come up once again here in the middle of a horrific bear market. You're definitely going to want to watch this one front to back to see everything covered. So smash that like button, make sure to subscribe because we're going to be bringing you some amazing content this year. I want to get right to the good stuff. This is Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan Bank. He's notorious for putting out some literal scathing criticisms of Bitcoin. He hates Bitcoin and crypto more than almost anything in the world. And this is nothing new. He's been hating on Bitcoin for literally years, and he was the most vocal against Bitcoin back in the middle of 2018. In fact, he called Bitcoin a full-on scam throughout 2018, and he just did it again today. Now, you might ask yourself, why does this matter? And isn't that a bad thing if one of the leaders of one of the biggest financial institutions in the world is calling Bitcoin a scam? Well, it would be if he actually believed that. You see, if you go back to this article published in June of 2018, what you'll see is that we actually found proof that every single time Jamie Dimon was publicly talking down about crypto and Bitcoin, he was actually buying it, albeit overseas in some manner, through one of his various subsidiaries. That's right, everybody, check the chain. Jamie Dimon has a history of calling out Bitcoin and crypto while simultaneously looking to buy it at a discount. He did it throughout the 2018 bear market, and we can only assume as crypto has literal blood on the highway, he's trying to do it again. It's important to remember, in crypto, the market is always trying to mess with your head. The big whales are not your friends. They want you to sell cheap to them and buy expensive from them. The trick is to flip the mindset, but it's so much easier said than done. Everyone looks at the chart and says, oh, I wish I would have bought down there. But if you were actually there in crypto during that moment, you wouldn't have wanted to buy. Just like a lot of people at the beginning of 2023 don't really want to buy because they're scared about crypto plunging to new lows. And so am I, which is of course what makes for an excellent trade setup. I'm not saying this is that time to buy. I'm just saying that's how markets work. People like Jamie Dimon and the whales want to make it seem like things can't get any worse so they can scoop up all the coins at a super discount and then sell back to you when you get the FOMO and they're more expensive. To me, Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a scam is not necessarily a reason to jump full into the markets, but it's definitely a leading buying indicator. And it's not just Jamie Dimon creating negative headlines. We see here that the billionaires, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, are waging a full-on war on Barry Silbert and Digital Currency Group. They just put out the hottest sequel mixtape to their original open letter to Barry Silbert. You see, if you're not caught up here, the Winklevoss twins run something called Gemini Exchange. Gemini Exchange has a product on it called Gemini Earn, where you can deposit your crypto and earn interest. Now, that product actually funneled funds to an entity called Genesis, which is owned by Digital Currency Group. It's a wholly owned subsidiary. Now, Digital Currency Group's CEO is named Barry Silbert, and DCG for short is one of the most powerful entities in the entire crypto space. Now, what we've learned through these open letters is that Gemini Earn funds went into Genesis to create yield. Genesis then lent those funds out to people like Three Arrows Capital, who then lost it in the Luna collapse, and this daisy chain of borrowers and lenders has left a hole of $900 million in the balance sheet at Gemini. Now, apparently, according to the Winklevoss twins in this open letter, which we're not going to read because it's 4 pages and nobody's got time for that, the point is they're accusing Barry Silbert of trying to brush this under the rug and leaving them out in the cold without adequate information. Now, they actually take this one step further and they accuse Barry Silbert of full-on fraud. That's right, accusing one of the biggest kingmakers in the entire crypto industry of fraud. I know, Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, FTX, Three Arrows Capital. Yes, just because they're powerful billionaires in crypto doesn't mean that they're not capable of fraud. In fact, we should go ahead and assume that they are. My point is, we're at a time where it feels like the headlines can't get any worse. So Jamie Dimon piling on and trying to make things seem even worse, you just can't help the feeling that you're being set up just a little bit. Anyway, that's how I like to look at the markets, is try to think, what are they trying to make me think? And then try to play out the opposite scenario. Now, it's worth noting that we've had a little bit of a pump coming into the year, but again, I want everyone to be cautious because we have a huge catalyst coming up this week, and that is CPI. Now, inflation with the headline number of CPI has been the biggest boogeyman that we're trying to fight this entire year. It's the reason the Fed got mean and started making our asset prices go down, because we were so rich in 2021, they want us to be poor. Jerome Powell is a mean man. That's all I can say. But the reality is, what Jerome Powell's trying to do is control CPI inflation. So understanding what CPI inflation is coming in at is key to understanding how much hawkishness or meanness Jerome Powell needs to exert on the economy going forward. CPI comes out on Thursday, and here's a breakdown of how it's gone from the reaction in the S&P, which is a good indicator of how markets react. Now, what you'll see is that typically when CPI comes in lower than its forecast, that is bullish. It's honestly a pretty mixed up report, but what you can see is that volatility is guaranteed. There's either going to be a massive pump or a massive dump. What I'll say is, in a bear market, a big rally into a meaningful piece of data is typically something that you don't want to trade too aggressively into, especially to the upside. There's a lot of risk. And we've been following the Wifey fam all year, and Wifey's been banging the drum saying, hey, look, more patience is required. It's going to be worse than it seems, but moreover, just to breathe, relax, and continue to exercise patience, because the generational lows are out there for the buying. But more to the point, we all know that there's a crash coming. And as Carlo Cassio explains here, there are so many factors indicating that they're going to have some negative effect on the economy. But exactly when these timings will emerge, exactly when the recession will happen, seems to be the big debate. Will it happen in 2023? Will it happen in the first half, the second half? Will it happen in 2024 or even 2025? The fact is that there's such a complex macroeconomic situation that it's almost impossible to say with certainty when these things will play out. Obviously, we knew when they started printing money like crazy, things were going to generally go up pretty quickly. But what we don't know is when the big dagger and the big collapse from the mainstream markets is going to happen. More to this point, a leading blockchain lobbyist named Jake Chervinsky, who's a lawyer in DC fighting for the crypto industry, is effectively saying, hey, look, more enforcement is going to happen this year, but it's mostly going to be noisy, and that actual new laws restricting the crypto industry face a ton of opposition. So while you might hear a lot of angry seeming headlines, the actual changes and new regulations probably won't happen, aka loud but no structural change, which is a great time to build. Look, we know there could be a recession this year, but it could also take a long time, maybe even more than a year, to emerge. We know CPI will have a huge impact on markets, but in the meantime, there's been a little bit of bullishness. What I do believe is possible is during this boredom, pretty much anything could happen. In 2023, I've started making it a mission to get deeply involved in the community still active in crypto. You see, I'm a believer that even if we dump another 50% in price, the people who are here right now are not leaving. I believe we've hit our floor for the community in crypto for the bear market. And that means that projects know who are going to stay. So in a world where the crypto community stops shrinking and potentially the recession doesn't manifest for a while, I believe that participants might concentrate and double down on strength. I've actually started buying some NFTs and allocating a little bit to ETH. Again, this is a very, very small percent of my portfolio, really about 1% or so. So if it all goes to zero, I'm going to survive. But I did feel excited again to be dabbling in the markets and getting more hands-on experience and exposure to what's being built and the progress being made even during the bear. Definitely follow me on Twitter as I'm doing more detailed, more nuanced content about the current state of crypto, NFTs, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. There's definitely a lot going on, including the project I founded, Imposters, having a huge event on Friday. And in the lead up to the event this week, Imposters have been flying. I'm super proud of the tech and progress going on. And although I'm expecting some massive macro collapse in the future, I'm having a lot of fun, honestly, engaging with and participating in what's going on in the community today. People who are here have adopted this long-term mindset, and it's awesome to interact with other people who truly understand and believe in the future of this industry. As always, I'm wishing you well, trying to bring you a simplified version of this extremely complex industry. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, share it, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.